started getting really severe migraine headaches when I was 12. And by the time I was 17, I was sent to a neurologist because the doctors thought I might have a brain tumor.
Welcome back, all you Courage, Confidence, and Connections fans, podcast fans. We have a new guest, as we always do, another episode with Wendy Duncan today. Wendy is a motivational speaker and personal development coach, and I got my words all twisted up. Y'all are used to that anyway. So we have fun when we talk. And Wendy, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you so much, Janice. It's great to be here and it's an honor to be invited.
Oh, I'm really happy you're here. Wendy was one of my coaches some time back, and we had a good time with that, didn't we, Wendy?
Absolutely.
Very, very, very helpful to get me going in a good direction. And, but you also marry people, so you're not just doing coaching, you're doing a lot of different things, many hats.
Multiple streams of income for the entrepreneur.
Absolutely, we have to have that. So what I'd like to do is have you talk a little bit about your life and your past, and so what's kind of leading into what you're doing now. We'll get into the business part of it, but I do want to have you speak on some of your history that could reflect courage and confidence in your life,
Wow, where do I start?
wherever you want.
I started getting really severe migraine headaches when I was 12. And by the time I was 17, I was sent to a neurologist because the doctors thought I might have a brain tumor. I had a headache every day and a migraine about 3 days a week. And after a CT scan, luckily everything was fine. The neurologist said to me, Wendy, you're totally healthy. You're just gonna have to change your thinking. And I thought, what's that even mean? I'm 17 years old, so he told me I needed to change it, but he didn't tell me how to.
Mm.
So fast forward a number of years, I was a real estate broker here in Central Oregon. I had a partner and a team of agents, and we were very pro personal development, but not airy-fairy, if you know what I mean. But we were very open to growing. So my partner brought me a little book called The Secret. Maybe some of you have read it or seen the documentary. I remember thinking, that's interesting. Like I'd never really heard of the law of attraction. So I really didn't give it much more thought than that, except for a life success consultant came to our team the next month, and Life Success was owned by Bob Proctor, and Bob Proctor was a philosopher who was interviewed for The Secret. So I'd never heard of this gentleman before, but we went all in and we did a commission sales course called Mission and Commission. And I knew I had finally found something that really honed in on where my mind came into the sales process. So after taking that, I closed more in commission sales in December of '07 than I had the previous 11 months. And consequently, I got licensed and certified under Bob Proctor's company in 2008, with no aspiration to become like a life coach, if you know what I mean. The day that I met Bob Proctor, I was on 4 prescription medications and 2 over-the-counter just to live a normal life. Over 30 years later, I still suffered from terrible, terrible migraines. I got to speak to Bob, and he said to me, "Oh, you made your head ache, and you can make it stop." And I seriously was pretty put off. I thought I was angry. I thought, who is this guy to tell me I have been suffering for over 30 years and I'm the cause of it?
Yeah.
So, although I was angry, I thought, what if he's right? So, I ended up doing a year-long mentorship program under his company, and it was almost miraculous. One by one, I got off all the medications, and I'm still drug-free and migraine-free today. So in late '08, I made the pivotal decision to talk about courage. I made the pivotal decision to walk away from my real estate career and embark on personal development coaching. I also subsequently got professional speaking training. And as Janice mentioned, I took that skill set, if you will, and I produced another stream of income as a wedding officiant. So I have 2 um, associate ministers. We officiate all over Central Oregon, And at the end of this year, we'll be at over 900 wedding ceremonies performed in our career. So, courage, confidence, connections, I think it all buckles in really beautifully. And if I could speak to, what really compels you to have the courage and the confidence? And I'm just going to say, um, I think that we're each born with a unique talent and ability.
Mhm.
Okay. So mine's going to be different than Janice, and yours is going to be different than ours. And so being able to discover that and have an open mind doing it. And I think that's really pivotal. We have this programming and conditioning from very early on,
Mhm.
things like, just go to school, go to college, get a good degree, get a great job, and then you'll be happy and you'll be solid. Well, personally, I didn't fit in that mold. I did not like school, but I've always loved making money. And even as a child, boy, I side hustled mowing lawns, babysitting. I would wash cars, wax cars. I would do anything to make some money. And so now at this point in my life, the possibilities are absolutely limitless. Does it take courage to go forth in that? Absolutely. But I always felt like, I just told you my story. I mean, to overcome 30 years of chronic pain, it took courage to face that and to think that, yeah, maybe I was getting in my own way.
Mhm.
And then when I discovered how to do it, I thought I have a moral obligation to share this with people because it is absolutely life-changing. And I've had a phone call. I have a gun and I'm ready to take my life. And so I've definitely coached some hard cases, not, all of them different, men and women alike, all ages. So it doesn't matter what your background is. Um, yeah, it does take courage to kind of face that little voice in your head,
Mhm.
which has been through time called many things. It's called the ego.
Mhm.
Right, Dr. Wayne Dyer said ego is an acronym for edging God out.
Mhm.
So there's this duality within our minds. One is going to be that has the courage and the confidence.
Mhm.
It's your higher self. It's bright. It's got limitless imagination.
Yes.
But on the other duality of it, that ego says, "Who am I? I can't do this.
Right.
How am I going to make a living? I don't have an education. I don't have a degree. And, frankly, I came from a broken home and people have always told me I'm a loser. So it takes courage to face that voice in your head that always tries to limit you. So I call it FRAN, which stands for false reasoning, appearing neurotic. So,
Absolutely. I love Fran.
uh,
When we coached, it always gets a laugh for me. It always does.
yeah.
And there's so much talk these days, and I actually have the discussion with many people that I have on here because I have a lot of people that work with people that like we do in personal development and mindset. The word mindset has become such a cliche, and everybody's working on mindset, but do a lot of people just they don't know what that actually means. So
Mhm.
I think Fran is like a nice character that represents that. If you want to expound on your thoughts of mindset and how it gets all mixed up and people don't necessarily grasp what that is. I mean, I do, but a lot of people don't.
Well, that is a great topic to tackle. So easier said than done.
Hmm.
Okay. Just to say I have to have a proper mindset or to just be positive. You know what? Some people are like, Forget you. Like, I have like a lot of heavy stuff going on in my life, you
Exactly.
know?
Hmm.
Maybe I have a sickness. Maybe I'm in the middle of a divorce. Maybe I lost a job. Maybe I just lost a parent. Maybe, fill in the blank. We all have our deal. So to just say be positive, mm-mm. Let it go.
Oh boy,
Mm-mm.
that's a big one.
Oh, and it is a hot button. If everybody knew how to just let it go, it'd be a far different world.
Boy.
So we are, I think you and I, Janice, have our training to be experts on how the mind even operates. We don't have a picture for it. Most people think of a brain. We do know it's in every cell of our being.
Hmm.
Mind is movement in what we think, and the body's manifestation of that movement in action.
Hmm.
But the mind is comprised of a conscious part and a subconscious part. The
Yes.
conscious part of the mind has the ability to accept, reject, and or choose, what it takes on. Okay, so somebody could tell me something and I could say, yeah, I believe it. Or you could go, you know what, that doesn't even sound right. But the subconscious mind is way more tricky and
Hmm.
involved. It can only accept. And it stores every impression, everything that we've ever experienced in our life. It's there running like a minimized, like you open up programs on your computer, you minimize the program, you know, and that's what happens with the subconscious mind. So those programs are very underlying as far as how we move through life, what we believe to be true, what we believe of ourselves, and it takes knowledge. Okay, that's where we come in. This is where we come in,
Hmm.
is being able to educate people on how their mind even works. I mean, the concept of what the subconscious can do is not everybody knows it. I wasn't taught it, and I surely wasn't taught about the ego. Now, I mean, I remember ego, I thought of as being egotistical,
That's what
right?
I. Hmm.
Yeah, but that's not what I have learned since then, right? Ego is that in the subconscious, it has beliefs, okay? So when something is said and you don't resonate with it, you might just put up a block. All right. Now there's a great saying, you were born into greatness
Hmm.
and conditioned into mediocrity.
I
So
love.
we weren't born with these concepts of limitation. We
Hmm.
weren't born with them to not feel, self-confident. We weren't born with, lack of courage. It took a lot of courage to learn how to walk,
Oh yeah.
and we took those couple of steps and we fell. It wasn't like we said, oh,
I'll
this
never.
is so hard.
I can't do
I'm
that.
not And this is humiliating, honestly. I'm just not even going to try again.
Right.
We
No.
didn't do that,
No.
right? But once you get older, I mean, as soon as you become self-aware that people are judging you, right? And they do. That's just because of human nature. It's
Yeah.
their ego, right? It's their ego. We become very self-conscious and we don't want to be humiliated. And so that courage piece starts to get shoved down. We don't want to be the center of attention. We don't want to fail. And we certainly are programmed into a world of competition, right? All the kids, they go out for what their basketball, their whatever sport they're playing, and it's very, very competitive. Well, what happens if you're not as athletically inclined? You're not as fast. Maybe you don't have the critical thinking. Does that mean you're a loser? No. It just means that maybe you haven't aligned with what your unique talent and ability is.
Yes.
So I know I just turned 60 years old. And I remember being 38 and working in corporate America
Hmm.
for other people, had migraines so terribly, so unhappy. And I remember thinking to myself, is this it? Like, is this the meaning of life? So somewhere deep within me, there was this reservoir that said, I'm empty. And consequently, because I felt empty and not on my own path and purpose, um, I was very depressed. And you if you go to the doctor and you say, I'm just really down. And
Hmm.
things are just not going well. And I should be so grateful for my life, but I feel dead inside. What's the doctor want to do?
Give you a drug.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But you know what? You cannot take a drug for something that your mind is infected with, which is the ego. If you're at all familiar with Dr. Wayne Dyer, he said the ego is a mind virus. So that means we're all infected with a virus.
Mm-hmm.
Now we know what the COVID shutdown and all of that was all about. With COVID, can you take a drug to get rid of it? As far as I know, you cannot. A
Mm-mm.
virus's job is to infiltrate and penetrate every cell of your being.
Yep.
Okay.
Hmm.
And you can't take a drug for it. You just got to wait and hold on and let it
Let it
pass.
go. Hmm.
So your mind is infected with a virus, the ego, right? You cannot take a drug for that.
Mm-mm.
Now, I'm not alluding to the fact that this is easy work. Okay.
It,
It's just that it's work.
it's,
But knowledge is power. So when you understand how your mind does operate and you build awareness as to when that little nagging voice comes in, that seed of doubt, and you're able to flip that, you're able to say to yourself, like, not today, Satan, not today, because I'm on my fast track. So you talked about mindset, Janice. So we have to understand how the mind works. We become more aware of what the mind's programming and conditioning is saying to us day in and day out. And when you are aware of that, have some fun with it. Just go, whoa, I have been spinning on this for an hour or 3 days or
yeah.
the last 50 years.
Mhm.
And have the discipline to allow yourself to let go, affirm that all is well, because it always is, even in the face of adversity. Now, the ego's going to say, no, 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 no. This happened to me. And, because of my circumstances, I can never, I'll never be a success. No, it's being able to recognize it and saying, no, not today. I am my own best cheerleader. I am a rock star. I am fully vital, vibrant, and alive. And at 38, I asked the universe, that's kind of my vernacular, even though I was raised with a Catholic mother, I had an atheist father, but I sort of resonate with universe. And I'm just like, universe, what is it I need to see? How do I move forward? I know that I'm here for a purpose, and it's not just working for someone else. Not that I'm anti working for other people, but the entrepreneur mind is one that says, I don't want to be told what to do.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I mean, I'm just being honest. I really am.
That's me, Wendy. That's me.
And I think most entrepreneurs are like that. I really do. Because otherwise, why are you building your business? So that courage and the confidence
Hmm.
to move forth in that. So how about I hop to the connections part? Um,
Sure, but I do want to share a story that this is something that I've shared many times with people that relates to when you were working with me going through a very difficult situation, and it was a divorce. So that meant losing the house. So I remember sitting in a restaurant across the table from you, and I was scared to death because I knew I would have to relocate. And I remember specifically saying, I don't want to lose my home. And you, with that entrepreneurial real estate mind, said, You're not living in a home, you're living in a house." And that's how I flipped that script. That was really impactful for me. And I had to see it from a different perspective. So, on that note, yes, now we can move forward because that was something that was very significant in helping me see things differently.
mm. Well, even if you buy a home, for instance, you buy a home, um, chances are you have a mortgage. Not everybody does, but so that means you don't actually own the home.
Right.
And then let's say you pay off the home and then you die.
Hmm.
Do you still own the home? Somebody else is gonna somebody else is gonna pick up that stick, right? They're gonna pass the baton. So,
Right.
but the ego demands, and I understand it, and I'm not anti-home, okay? We all have to have shelter. But it doesn't define who you are.
No.
And I left real estate right as the recession was starting to hit very hard. Oh my gosh, financially, it hurt me. It hurt me. It didn't hurt me. I didn't allow it to hurt me. But it definitely depleted my finances.
There's, yeah.
Isn't that interesting? But
Mhm.
I tell you what, it built character out of that. So, and strengthened my mindset that I was not identified by how much money I have in the bank. And I'm not anti-money. Obviously, you have to have currency in order to live through life, unless you're living on the land, and that's just a discussion for another time.
Yes.
But mindset around that is very key and critical. You know what? I don't even know that I fully evolved the mindset part. But I did say knowledge is power, being aware of it, being able to change it,
Aware.
being able to let go of the things you can't control. And personally, I affirm, like I have a knowing within me of what I am capable of doing. And I affirm it absolutely every single day. And another important key is to like be our own cheerleader,
Hmm.
right? To not look to other people to validate that we're great,
Right.
that we are um, yeah, that we're successful. Because if you run into that one person who doesn't validate you, then your whole world crumbles.
Hmm.
So part of the work that I do with people is to really assist them in being self-sufficient and taking radical accountability for what they think, for what they feel, and for what they do. So it's really, really awesome work. All right, so connections. Tell me a little bit where you're going with that, Janice, and then I know I can speak to it.
Well, we're all connected, and we've been talking about the universe and stuff, so we know we're all connected. And none of us can live life, that no man is an island. There's a reality to that. We're never going to live without the connections of other people. And for me, when that name of Courage, Confidence, Connections dropped in my heart many years ago, and I made a book out of it, it just speaks to how people have affected my life. And there's been positive and negative connections, but it's like the connection with you and how you impacted my life. And now I'm able to do this for you. And so connections are about the people you meet, whether good, bad, or indifferent, how they have an impact on your life is where I go with that.
Mm, okay. So you want me to go back and think about some connections that I have and how it brought me here?
Sure, let's tell that story.
I'm not sure which one you're looking for, but
I don't have a preference.
no, it's all right. So I'll use the secret as an example. I was licensed in California, Oregon, and Washington. And the reason I was licensed like that, I started in California, I moved to Oregon, and the company that I worked for also produced a product, homes in Washington. So I got to be very good at selling resort properties. Okay. So these are homes that people don't actually even need because it's their second home. And I would hold open house after open house. I got very good at moving people through. And this one day, I got a couple in contract. Now, they had literally walked in, viewed the house, really cool, cool property, cool resort. And I asked them, are you working with another real estate broker? And they kind of and hawed a little bit. They said, "Well, yeah, there's this one that we've used, but we're not like loyal to her." I'm like, "Okay." So I write the earnest money. The next day, I get a phone call from this lady. Her name is B. And B said, I would love to meet you.
Hmm.
I want to meet the woman who stole buyers from me. Now I articulated exactly how it occurred. And
Mhm.
I'm like, hmm. Now I know I've done nothing wrong. Nothing.
Yeah.
So I meet her, and she was very closed off. I later called her the Barracuda.
Ah,
She was absolutely the reigning real estate broker in this resort.
oh, wow.
And she said, I had to meet somebody who could take clients from me. I said, I did ask them. She said, Wendy, the night before you wrote that earnest money agreement, they were in my kitchen, in my home. I made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for their kids. I said, well, obviously, I did not know that. And she didn't have a buyer service agreement with them. So, I mean, legally, if you want to, protect yourself, that had to be in play.
Sure.
I didn't do anything intentionally incorrect. As it turned out, that agreement that I got them in, they they dissolved it, they canceled it, and they ended up buying one of her homes. She had a couple of investment properties. They ended up buying one of hers, which was great, and she recruited me on her team. So I went to work with her and I acted as her partner. I brought financial contribution to the team. And she is the one who brought me the book, The Secret. And I don't remember the exact date, but I'm going to say it was September 2007. And it was because of her even thinking of sharing this book with me. Okay, now I've just told you like this whole story. Like, what was the likelihood I'd even meet this woman, right? And
Yeah.
all because of that situation, which could have been viewed as something negative, and she totally could have held it against me. But we love each other. We still love each other. We still text all the time. And it was because of her handing me that book and being open to personal development that literally changed my life. That connection. And so going from when I was 38 to like, is this it? And being depressed to being very open to what the universe could bring me. And
Mhm.
I think that's a connection, right? Even in the asking, you're creating a connection to all that is.
Exactly.
And then B came into my life. The book came into my life. Bob Proctor came into my life. And so many other great people. If you can see behind me, I got lots of books.
Oh, yeah.
Picture my mom and dad up there too. They made me, right? Read all these books plus a bunch more, all of them connecting me to where I am today, owning a couple of businesses and being healthy, and having a very loving relationship. And I'm every single day feel that gratitude, not taking anything for granted, but also knowing I'm responsible for my life.
Yes.
I'm
That's a,
responsible for my results. I'm responsible for everything that I'm bringing in. And I think when you can take that radical responsibility for things and accountability for things, you feel much more empowered. And when you feel much more empowered, it's easy to have courage. And when you have courage, it's easy to have confidence, right? You're
yes.
not going to, I will say this. I received my formal training for speaking and I landed my first speaking engagement, like being a fully trained life success consultant and knowing how to speak, like with PowerPoint, microphone. And I did the talk for free. And I expected there to be about 25 people in the room, which was a little daunting anyway. But there were about 125 people in the room. And
Nice.
I remember saying to myself, well, I'm going to go and do my best. And I fully realize that every single person in that room will form a judgment of me as soon as they lay eyes on me. And that's okay. That's okay because they're entitled to their judgment, to their opinion. But I knew that I mean, you don't, you just don't go in front of any group and talk about higher consciousness and the power of your mind and taking radical accountability. Okay. Not everybody's ready to receive that.
Oh,
But I figured if I helped one person in that room, I know I've done my job, and some amazing connections came out of that first
that's
talk and still continue to today. So it's really
fantastic.
cool.
And it does continue. And I think being open to who comes into your life and how you receive whatever it is you need is vital because we can get so judgmental on, I can't hear anything from that person. I know that I read The Secret before I even left North Carolina. And I was very caught up in religion at the time, but I had friends who wouldn't even touch it.
Hmm.
Wouldn't even touch it. And
Hmm.
for me being a preacher's daughter and having been embedded in the culture of religion, it was a big step. And but what got me here was just like, okay, let's be open to what is for you and what you're supposed to do. I never saw myself doing this, Wendy. I never did until the end of last year when it fell in my lap and I started getting booked out doing it. And I absolutely love because I want to help people speak out about what they do and what they believe. And I don't come in with any judgment, but there are subjects I wouldn't tackle, of course, but I think the openness and a book called Awareness, I think you pointed me to,
Anthony DeMello.
yes, really, really rocked my world. I've read it 5 times. And
Hmm.
I think probably reviewed it a lot more than that. And realizing that I was like, I thought I was awake and aware. And then you realize you're not.
Hmm.
But also, I was rereading journals. We talk about mindsets and the subconscious. I've got journals going back over 30 years, a whole stack of about 35 of them right beside me. So I picked one up the other day and I read something that shocked me. I read something that I still deal with today, and that's being defensive. And you coached me. So I'm being very transparent here in that I've always had that problem of being defensive. And with that comes other subconscious issues. And I don't know where it tracks back to, but I know for 30 years, this journal I read was like 20 years ago. I said, oh my goodness, because this gentleman where I worked said, nobody's out to get you. I thought, oh my goodness, that was a wake up call. And
Yeah.
I had to open my heart and say, okay, I still wonder why this pops up every now and then, but I'm aware of it. And that is what matters. And talking about just being aware of old belief patterns. And you don't have to know the source of everything and where it came from, but being aware that it's there is huge and has really impacted me. Just that wake up call.
I think being defensive is something that we learn really early on. And because of the lack of self-confidence, right? If you were self-confident, you wouldn't need someone else's good opinion of you. And again, going back to childhood, if you are yelled at
Mhm.
and slapped or spanked, which, I'm old enough, that was okay when I was a kid.
Me
So,
too.
but it makes you feel humility. You're so ashamed, right?
Exactly.
So we are right out of the gate, we don't want to feel that sort of pain.
Mm-mm.
So then we start turning ourselves into a pretzel to please everyone else.
Oh, yes.
And our culture, I see it with men, p- probably more so with women, but men certainly are not immune to where you are very attached to what other people think of, like your physical appearance, maybe the car you drive, what neighborhood you live in, right?
Oh.
So that you feel like you're a success.
Hmm.
And it's so backwards.
It is, maybe.
We were never taught to love ourselves from within. You know, uh, you can heal your life. Louise Hay,
Oh, yes.
right?
About
Her
that.
mantra, I love and approve of myself. I always say to myself, I love myself enough. So
Mhm.
even if you don't have a good opinion of me and you don't like what I did or what I said or how I acted, I love myself enough that I'm not going to like treat myself badly. I'm not going to cry, throw a tantrum, go get in my car and race off. I'm not going to throw anything. I'm not going to, go have to go to therapy over it. But we are taught very early on that fight or flight
Mhm.
response.
Yeah.
And that is actually the lowest level of consciousness that exists. And it is estimated that 95% of the population lives in fight or flight.
That
95%.
that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. But I see it. We both see it every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that posture of, I'll get you before you get me in our world.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
really is.
Well, I read another great book, The Mind and Love by Dr. Daniel Amen, and he imparted some very wise words, which is that, okay, so we're women, but men apparently are programmed to compete and win,
Mm.
make him think he wins a lot.
Oh.
Now, my personal response was, now, wait a minute. If I'm right, I am going to defend my position to the very, very end, to the bitter end, and I will give you concrete evidence as to why I think I'm right. But I thought, in a world that is energy, right? When you have two egos pushing against each other, right? I'm right. No, I'm getting defensive and I'm going to explain to you why I did this. Well, you don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I do. All right. But in the space where you simply go, okay, it creates like this ease and allowance where energy just flows around you. So, real life example, if somebody texts you and it's a mean text, if you don't answer, eventually they will not text you again because they can't get any response. See where I'm going with this?
I know. I've lived it. I've lived through it and I've lived it. And actually, I experienced it with an individual in my life who was not kind. And I was getting those texts that were I call it poking the bear, trying to get a response out of me. And I finally no more response. And the next text I got was, well, I guess we're not going to be talking anymore.
Hmm.
So it's okay to let people go. It's okay to let live and let live. You don't have to be everybody's friend. And I grew up as a people pleaser, definitely knowing that. But I had to the song and dance to make everybody laugh and be happy. And
We
then
really lose our authenticity in that space. A good coach, great coach that I sought out when I was making the pivotal decision to leave real estate and coach. She asked me, when do you feel like you're your most authentic?
mm,
I feel like authenticity means I'm being me, naturally me,
mhm,
with my talent and ability. I'm not worried about what you think of me. I'm present. I'm not thinking about what happened yesterday or thinking about what I'm having for dinner. It just is like, it's just me, right?
right.
And it's not like putting on a mask. So I told her it was when I was coaching, and she said, don't waste another second. So, what you said about people pleasing, something also that we're very deeply ingrained to do, because again, like we don't want to be humiliated. We want people to love us because we don't have the love for ourselves. But you put that mask on, it's extremely stressful. And
Mm,
I realized through working for other people that I was always putting this mask on. Like I didn't want people to know that I had a migraine, that I was so bitterly unhappy, that I had trouble sleeping, that, I carried around this depression all the time. I didn't want anybody to know that because you have to be very vulnerable.
mm,
You have to be very vulnerable to be able to share that. But in putting on that mask, people pleasing everybody else, That is stressful. And if you don't get the response that you seek, you will eventually begin to resent it. You,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
Been there, done that, lived it, and so many people are. And it's fun to work with people to help get them out of that
Hmm.
thought process and
Yeah,
perception of themselves and others. Yeah,
for
so
sure.
this has been great. I hope it's gone in a direction that you spoke well of what you said. Everything is just gone as we didn't plan it.
We went with the
Go with
flow.
the flow. That's what I do is I go with the flow. But do you have any parting words for our audience that speak to whatever? Because and you're and how to reach you for
Yeah.
either tying that knot or getting getting some coaching before you do.
I appreciate that opportunity, Janice. So my coaching business you can find at Wendy, and it's Wendy Duncan, DUNCAN.com. So via that website, you can see what areas I coach in and how I coach. I also offer speaking for anybody, organizations, small companies, anybody who'll listen to me. I always offer a complimentary 1 hour coaching session. So if you're at all interested in exploring the magic and possibility of what coaching can bring to your life, I offer one complimentary hour, typically via Zoom or FaceTime. I would love to get to know you and show you how I coach. And then if you're getting married, or remarried, or maybe someone in your life special has passed. I also do celebrant work. So you can go to Wendy Duncan Ministries.com for that business. I also train officiants. So I understand there are about 1,400 licenses pulled into Deschutes County where we live alone every year. And my team does roughly 100 ceremonies all over Oregon. So I know a lot of people are asking family friend or family member to officiate, but quite often they don't know what they're doing. So I, I offer officiant training as well.
That's
So
fantastic. Very
yeah.
good. And
Yeah.
and obviously you coach coaches because you coached me.
I
So
absolutely coach coaches.
yeah,
Oh, and you can always email me. Very easy. Everything's wrapped up in my name. My email is Wendy@wendyduncan.com. Okay, would love to chat.
thank you so much for being my guest. I'm just delighted we finally connected. It's been way too long. But to
Yes.
our audience, this has been Janice Debo speaking with Wendy Duncan on Courage, Confidence, and Connections podcast. Join us for another episode. You'll always be surprised who shows up because I never tell you in advance. Thank you, listeners, watchers.